I want to start with the invitation because it says something curious. Hey, Siri, give me a hint. So we tried that. Hey, Siri, give me a hint.
You'll have to wait until September 9th. I bet you were one of those kids who snuck downstairs to open presents early, weren't you?
Of course. Of course I was. Okay. It's very clever. So, Adam, what are we expecting?
Some of the things on tap are going to be an update to the iPhone. So this will be the sort of speed bump model where it have an improved camera, a beefed up processor, as well as a new feature that's been on the Apple Watch, which is a force touch, where if you push down on the screen, you'll be able to navigate some new features that will be there.
And the set-top box,
yeah,
right?
the Apple TV set-top box, which hasn't been updated for several years. That was a device that was actually introduced on the same day as the iPhone back in 2007, but has obviously not been as much of a focus for the company. But now it's a very competitive market. Amazon, Google, Roku are all playing in that space as well.
Crawford, is this jiving with what you're hearing? What are you looking forward to?
Well, you know, I think that to the point that was just made, I would expect a new, obviously new iPhones, but I would also expect on the TV box, I think that the Hey Siri, give us a hint, is a hint to more interactive way to work with television, potentially. And I think that this idea of having apps on a TV box, being able to speak to the television as opposed to using a remote control, could be a way to integrate Siri into the television.
Now, John Sculley, you not only were CEO of Apple for many years, but today you're unveiling a new phone, the Obi Worldphone, which looks like an iPhone, though it's built on Android, designed by Robert Brunner, who worked at Apple and, in fact, hired Johnny Ive. You're releasing this in October, which is prime iPhone time. What's your intention here? Do you think you can take the iPhone and these cheaper Android competitors on?
Well, we have no interest in taking Apple on an iPhone. An iPhone is a spectacular product. It dominates the high-end premium end of the market. No reason to believe that Apple won't continue to be just as successful in the future. What we're doing is we're creating the only other design-led consumer electronics company in the smartphone industry from the United States. And we're here in Silicon Valley. I'm speaking from our offices in San Francisco. And we brought together several of the old Apple team that I worked with, and we're creating a design center which is at the budget end of the industry. It has nothing to do with where Apple is. But it takes the Android platform, and you can't do a lot with user interface, and Google controls that pretty well, but we're doing a lot with the user experience. And we're basically giving people what they would expect for maybe $700 from the premium phones and giving it to them at a $199 price point. And then we have one even lower price point at $129. And these are all for the developing markets, which are converting from low bandwidth to 4G LTE.
Lulu, you know, obviously China's a huge market for Apple. It's also a huge market for Xiaomi and Samsung. Should Apple be worried about the state of iPhone sales in China and the incoming competitors like the Obi Worldphone?
Well, they've always faced a lot of competition in China.
Go ahead, Lulu.
Like I said, they've always faced competition from Xiaomi, Huawei, Lenovo, but an issue that all of these companies are facing right now is the overall slowing economy in China. And so if you look at what the competitors are doing, they're asking themselves the question, should they expand into the smaller tier cities, the rural e-commerces of China, and then really try to explore that market, or are they going overseas? And that is exactly what Lenovo and Xiaomi is doing. They've chosen India as the next market because they've realized that maybe the more saturized markets are not enough to boost their next phases of growth.
Now, Crawford, IDC is out with some pretty interesting numbers today on the Apple Watch. More impressive than I think a lot of people expected, that Apple sold 3.6 million or shipped 3.6 million Apple Watches in the last quarter. Break it down for us and what it means, the trends you've seen.
Yeah, so what we saw is that this category expanded over 220% year over year, which means that this is the classic situation where Apple is a category buster. Apple is basically coming in, redefining the category, and we believe that the wearable category between now and 2020 has the opportunity to be a bigger game changer than the tablet was. We expect that this is the beginning of that trend. There will be fits and starts, but we also believe that between now and 2020, 500 500,000 apps will be developed for wearable devices. So our expectation is that it's a very, very different world if you're a wearable competitor in today than it was 1 year ago. Your market is twice as large, but you have a whole new competitor, and a competitor that has developers on its side. And that's huge. And for companies like Garmin, that's a real warning sign, because you could see a lot of these single category wearables or single application wearables really sediment into devices like the iPhone, like the Apple Watch, as well as like a rethought Android device, which we will likely see in the next few months.
Now, John Sculley, looking at the big picture, obviously, now we're hearing the Apple Watch maybe doing better than some expected. There have been, though, concerns about iPhone sales slowing down. What do you see when you look at the big picture for Apple and the challenges that lie ahead?
Well, I think Apple's in very good shape in China. The reality is the China market's growing at about 1.2% year over year, so it's very slow, but Apple is growing very fast. Tim Cook came out and made a public statement on that a few days ago, which means that there are a lot of other people who aren't growing at all. And it's changing the behavior as people aspire at the high end of the market to the iPhone, and they're willing to wait. So in the past in China, people would refresh, buy a new phone every 6 months, every 9 months, every year. Now they're willing to wait maybe 18 months to be able to afford an iPhone. And that's having an impact on the market because it means less phones are being sold. So that's a problem for other companies like Samsung in China. And it's why you see people like Xiaomi moving into other markets. In the case of Obi Worldphone, we're not even going into China at this time. We're focused on the Middle East and Africa, in Central West Asia, in Southeast Asia. And we'll be in about 70 countries over the next 2 years, but we're not even looking at the U.S. or Western Europe or China at this point. They're replacement markets.